Myke Scavone, it's taken us a while, but we finally got here. Welcome to A Breath of Fresh Air. Great to have your company. Myke, tell me a little bit about you. I've now heard all about your family. I want to know about you. Are you still getting into music?
Yes. Right now, I'm kind of like in a hiatus because I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. I've been working with the Yardbirds, as you may or may not know. I've been
Yes,
touring
I
with
do
them
know that.
since 2015. And we had a tour scheduled for the United States in the fall. And then at the last minute, um, Jim, who's the one of the founding members, he's actually the only founding member left in the band, decided to cancel the tour because he couldn't get insurance to cover him here if he got COVID.
Right. Yeah,
And
it's a
he was
big
trying to
problem,
get
isn't it?
it. Yeah. And so that was, he just didn't want to take the chance.
I'm
And,
actually
he
chatting
got,
to I'm actually chatting to Jim, I think, next week because he's just put a book out. So he cancelled the tour and spent his time writing a book.
he's got another book, or is
Yeah.
this,
No,
I
I
didn't know
believe
he did a second book.
I oh well hang on a minute. You might be right. I didn't read it very closely. I haven't studied it
Called
as well.
Nobody Told Me.
Hang on, I can check. Let me check. It is. Uh, it is. It's the second installment of his memoirs entitled "She Walks in Beauty." It is his second book.
Oh, it is a
There
second
you
book.
go.
Now I'm going to have to make him get me one.
I can ping you the PDF if you like. But
Yeah.
obviously that's how he spent his COVID time if he wasn't on the road. He's writing. But I mean, hopefully the Yardbirds do get up and start moving around the place again now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully. Right now, they're scheduling mainly, I think, April, May, and June of 2022.
Right.
Now, I know
Wow.
Jim's doing some other things. He's always got something else going. He's got a bunch of projects that he's doing. He's playing with some of the guys that used to be in the Yardbirds a few years back over in France and England right now.
Oh, that's
So,
cool. So how did you join them in 2015?
well, my other band, the Doughboys, who actually we started. The funny thing about the Doughboys and the Yardbirds is that we were together for the same years initially, which was 64 to 68.
Right.
And so that was my band I was in when I was in high school. I was the lead singer in that band. And what happened was we had a reunion back in 2000, which the drummer's wife put together as a surprise for his birthday. That was quite a funny thing, the way that all happened, because it was supposed to be a one-off. We never intended to actually get back together. We were just going to do this for his birthday as a surprise.
Yeah.
She booked this club called Arlene's Grocery in Soho, and she had them put on the marquee that it was the Doughboys playing. And she said, "Let's just go to." And meanwhile, she had called me about getting the other guys together. There was only four of us in the band at the time. Actually, and so because I also play drums, I was able to rehearse with the other two guys. Richie is our drummer, and we we just went over. We took about 10 songs, cover songs that we used to play in high school, and we just got the arrangements on them and stuff, and went through them a few times. And then when he came up and he got in and he saw us, he came up on stage, and it was amazing because it was like we never had stopped playing together. It was like 1967 all over again. It was crazy.
Amazing. It's amazing.
So yeah, and what happened was the club owner uh, at Orleans, there was a guy named Dick Manitoba. I don't know if you know who he is.
No.
Dick Manitoba was one of the DJs for Little Steven's Underground Garage.
Oh, okay.
And he had his own little club on Avenue B, and he asked us if we would play there. And so we said, yeah, okay. We weren't planning, like I said, it was a one-off. And then from there, the guy that owned the Sidewalk Cafe asked us, and one thing led to another. And before you knew it, we were playing every weekend again. So that band opened for the Yardbirds in 2011. It was the tour. It was the last tour that Chris Dreja was on. also a founding member.
Yeah.
And he had a stroke on stage when they were in California on that tour. So because we had got to know him, because we played a few of the shows with them, when Jim was looking to change the lineup, he basically got a hold of our guitar player in the Doughboys, because they had been getting back and forth, and asked him if he knew a good harmonica player and a good bass player. So he said to Jim, well, why don't you ask Myke and Myke? The other Myke is the bass player in the Doughboys. And so Jim really didn't want two guys from the same band. You know, he didn't. So what he did is he watched a bunch of our stuff, because he had seen us again, you know, when we played live with him.
Yeah.
But he went and looked at a bunch of our stuff on YouTube, and he decided to just bring me on. So with them, I play harmonica, sing backup vocals, and play percussion as well. And for me, truthfully, you know, I almost felt a little guilty, because I'm used to being the front man and having to carry the weight of the band pretty much, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And for this, I'm off on the side. I'm just having fun, playing, singing, banging.
Getting paid for it.
Getting paid for it. Yeah, so I felt a little bad, but so that's how I ended up in the band, you know. And, it was fun.
Taking a step back to the Doughboys, as you mentioned, 64 through to 68, why did the band disband at that time?
Well, there was a bunch of crazy stuff. The band actually started, got to go all the way back to 64. When they started in 64, it was the drummer Richie, the bass player Myke, there was Willie was the guitar player, and they had a rhythm guitar player named Brian, who looked a little bit like Brian Jones, actually. And so there were four. And then I was in a rival band called the Apollos. And I was the drummer in that band, but I sang from behind the drums. And one day we had a show where I came out from behind the drums, and the lead singer in that band sat on the drums for a couple songs, and I came up front, and I just kind of did my dancing around craziness. And a couple of the Doughboys, who were called the Ascots at that point, were at the show. And so when the two of the guys in the Apollos were going away to college, the band was breaking up. So I was sitting down with Richie, the drummer from the Doughboys, Ascots at that time, and he said to me, well, what are you going to do now that the band's gone? I said, well, I really would like to be a singer. I'd really just like to sing up front and not play drums anymore. So he goes, yeah, we've been looking for a singer. So that's how I got in the band. So they were already together. I joined in 1965. And I used to walk about 5.5 miles every night in my Beatle boots to rehearsals, and then back home afterwards. And that's why my feet are so bad right now. Because but anyhow, we were the house band at the Cafe Wagner in 1968. And then the band broke up just because what happened is we had 5 guys, because we got another guy from the Apollos who joined the Ascots when I did. And then things were, you know, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, again, the Who, the Yardbirds, all of that stuff was, the Who weren't really abound yet. But then the Who and the Cream and these bands that were just 4-piece, with a lead singer came apart. So they wanted to get rid of the rhythm guitar player that we had. So we got rid of that, and there were 4 guys. And then they decided that they didn't need me. So they got rid of me, and they had just the 3 of them, and the guitar player was singing most of the songs. And then they decided they just wanted to get rid of each other. And then so that was it. You know, it was just kind of crazy. We had a record contract. I mean, I was in high school, and I was getting excused from school to go record records.
Amazing.
And
how did you feel? How did you feel when they said goodbye to you?
Not very good, but it was like, you know what? They were such good musicians that I could see why they were doing what they were doing and why they wanted to do that. Right. You know, because Cream was real big at the time, and you know, they were going in that kind of direction. And then there was Hendrix, and you know, a lot of these three-piece bands were picking up. So they were just great musicians. They were a great bunch of guys, and I felt very rejected, obviously, and I just kind of sat around and did as many drugs as I could get my hands on.
as everyone was doing at the time, of course.
And then, you know, I would play a little bit here and there with different people sitting, but I could never really get comfortable with any other group. You know, it just wasn't the same as playing with those guys.
Well, you'd grown up with them, hadn't you? You'd gone to school with them all.
Yeah. So that made a big difference.
You're still friendly with them today?
Yes. The lead guitar player at the time, Willie Kirchhoff, had passed away in 2004. And that's when we got Gar Francis, who played guitar up until the pandemic. And then we didn't do anything for the longest time. Right. And now that I'm in Austin, it's a little bit tougher.
Okay. So what happens next for you? After all those drugs, you pick up all your musical instruments again and get another gig?
Well, the next thing I did, if I recall correctly, was I went back to playing drums. Because I said, you know what, I'm just going to sit in the background and have fun, you know, kind of like what I'm doing with the Yardbirds. And, you know, so I sang all of the harder songs, not hard in terms of hard to sing, but the harder rock songs. It was actually a country rock band that I was playing called Sauce. And we were working as, we were playing different clubs and colleges all over the New England area because we were living in upstate New York at the time. And then we became the studio band for Casanets and Cats. And, you know, so they had a bunch of different songwriters that would come in and we would basically do all the demos for these songwriters. Uh-huh. And we found out later that they were putting out albums of these demos and never told us, but I
never got credit.
Never got credit. They changed all our names on the album.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, very interesting. But at any rate, it was through that, the lead singer in that band, actually we had 5 lead singers in that band, so we had incredible harmonies doing, you know, country rock stuff. And the lead singer at the time, we called him the lead singer because he had the most powerful voice in the world. This guy, Steve Tracy, they had asked him if he was, they were in the process of trying to put together Ram Jam, the band. And the only person that they had at that point was Bill Bartlett, who was really the center of everything that went on with that band. And so he had just, I think his son was maybe 2 years old at the time. And so he was like, nah, I'm not really interested in going on the road and touring and any of that stuff. I go, but you should talk to Myke because I think he'd fit really good in that. And they were like, Myke, he sings? Because they only knew me playing drums and doing background vocals. Yeah. And so Steve said, yeah, you should have him try out. So I tried out. I did a bunch of songs and stuff with him. And so I made the cut for the band. And when we came in and we did the album, and you know, the rest was just very short-lived history. I think the band really stayed together, that band, for a little over a year and a half.
Right. I'm chatting with Myke Scavone from the Doughboys, from Ram Jam, and now from the Yardbirds. Myke, you said earlier that you wanted to get out from behind the drums and be the lead singer in the band, drive the band. Can you explain to us the buzz of being the lead singer, of being the one to carry the whole thing, of all the dance antics, the moves? Can you tell us how that feels?
Well, if you know me as a person outside of my music, I'm very low key. I'm very laid back. I'm not much of a conversationalist unless somebody is feeding me, like you are. I'll sit in a crowd of people and basically not have anything to say unless somebody, again, leads me. So for me to get on stage, it's like all of a sudden everything that's in there comes out. And I mean, music to me, the whole point of music is fun. it's a lot different than most musicians I know. I don't consider myself a musician because of that. I just love performing. I love um, being there and getting other people to enjoy what's going on. Because I think that's the whole thing. The lead singer's job, the front man's job is to get other people to enjoy what's going on,
Right.
to enjoy the night.
Uh-huh.
And so that's for me, it's always been something that's been very natural. I've never had to try to be the front man. I just do it, and it's just it's hard to explain. It's just you get to be everything that you want to be.
Oops, I just lost that
With
connection a little bit. Hang
anything
on.
other than remembering lyrics.
So can you just say
Oh,
that again? Hang on, we'll just go back on that back. Can you just come back again with you just get to become everything that you want to be?
yeah. Well, you get everything that's inside of you to come out, and you get to have a lot of fun, and you get to encourage other people to enjoy the night, and that's for me. That's what it's all about. You
It's a
know.
pretty common theme, isn't it? Because what we see on stage from frontmen doing their performances is often vastly different from who they are in their personal lives, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's very true.
I guess that's similar to comedians who act completely one way and live totally another way.
That's true. I think that's probably true for a lot of entertainers. They're one way
Yeah,
on stage and they're different off
yeah,
stage.
yeah. So you were with Ram Jam, and of course Ram Jam's massive hit was Black Betty, but you didn't get to perform on Black Betty, did you?
No, that was the hard part for me. Was I was the lead singer in the band, but I didn't sing the hit song. And the
Damn.
reason, yeah, I told some girl this. I was in Seattle one night when we were talking, and I said, "Yeah, I was the lead singer in the band, but uh, I didn't get to sing the big hit." And she goes, "Oh man, God was really messing with you."
Well, what happened?
Well, the fact of the matter is that myself and Bill Bartlett had been, well, Bill had been singing that song. He was the one that arranged that whole song completely.
Right.
He was in another band called Starstruck, I think, way, way before that. And they had originally done that song. And so Bill had been singing that song forever. So Bill and I were splitting the vocals on the album. And there was no way he was going to let me sing that. It just wasn't going to happen. It wasn't
Right.
because I couldn't sing it.
Yeah.
It was his song. And I wasn't going to argue with him about it. I mean, it was his song. He had been doing it for years. And he did a darn good job.
It was a massive hit, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
quite controversial at the time, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I'm almost wondering if it's going to be controversial again with all the stuff that's gone on. I mean, just heard that Rolling Stones took Brown Sugar out of their
That's
set, and I'm
right.
thinking,
That's right.
wow,
Yeah.
are these are these are these royalties going to stop rolling in all of a sudden now? you know?
But you were playing on the track though, weren't you? You weren't the lead
Yeah,
voice on it, but you were certainly on the track. And was there a bit of an outcry at the time it was released?
yeah. Well, it started with a Baptist preacher down in Florida who started this big hubbub saying it was trying to think of the word he said, but it basically said it was dishonoring to black women.
Right.
And I thought, well, wait a minute, this was a black guy that we got the song from, and and that's a whole other story in itself. But at any rate, um, so it ended up that the NAACP put a big stink up about it. And this was the hard part for us, was because the song was hitting #1 all across the country. And back then, the AM stations still controlled the charts. FM hadn't really, it was just starting to rise up. It hadn't actually become big.
Yeah.
And so LA and New York, because of this outcry from the NAACP, stopped playing it completely. Those are the two biggest markets in the whole country.
Yeah.
And so the song, because of that, sat at number 13 in the top 20 for 6 weeks.
I
It was
didn't
so
move.
strong you couldn't go down,
Yeah.
and it was so much grief from not getting LA and New York that it couldn't go up again. It couldn't go up into the numbers. It would have easily been a top 10, should have been a number one song, but it got stopped because of all the controversy around it.
Right. What wasn't there a remix of it in the 90s?
Yeah, they did a remix where I forget the guy that did it, but he basically turned it into a dance song, put a bunch of different stuff behind it, sampled a whole bunch of stuff in there. And then what happened was the original, our version of it, got came out in a L'Oreal perfume commercial around 1992 in France, and the thing shot up to number 2 in France.
Right.
And so, so it's had all these resurrections. I happen to be a Mets fan, being from New York and having been born in Brooklyn. But Yankee Stadium would play Black Betty every time the Yankees would have a rally. So, and then it got it in the movie Blow with Johnny Depp, and it's been in so many movies. It's just crazy. And every time I turn around, I went to a hockey game, and all of a sudden I hear Black Betty over to loudspeakers, and it's just, no matter where I go, I've heard this song pop up. One of my friends who does these spin sessions,
the bike classes.
They use Black Betty all the time on the bicycles, right?
Yeah. Well, it's really motivating. How does that make you feel to hear it pop up everywhere?
Well, it's amazing, because the one time that it really surprised me, I was walking, I think it was in Lake Como, Italy, and I'm walking past this pizzeria, and all of a sudden Black Betty starts playing, and it was just really loud, blasting out of the pizzeria. But it always makes, just gets my blood pumping, I want to go back on stage again. I want to go be front man again,
So suffice to say, you've had an enjoyable existence as a result of that one hit anyway.
Oh yeah. It's been a lot of fun. The funniest part about it is I wanted to redo it with the Doughboys, but I could never get them to even play it. And I don't know why. And it kind of bothered me, because there were so many other versions of it that have come out since.
Yeah.
From Spiderbait, you guys in Australia, right?
Yeah.
And then Tom Jones put it out.
All right.
Some other, I can't remember the other group.
Why wouldn't the Doughboys do it?
You got me. I could never get an answer from them. I don't know if they felt it was too challenging, or if they didn't want us to base where we went on that song, which I thought would be kind of stupid, because the Doughboys, in my own humble opinion, I thought the Doughboys were a much better band than Ram Jam. And I thought the Doughboys were really not, they didn't get the recognition I think they should have, and I'm not just talking about because of myself. The guys in that band were really good quality musicians.
But it's not over yet with them. You're still friendly with them all, and there's still a possibility that may eventuate. You haven't given up pushing them, have you?
Anything could happen. I'll just leave it at that. Again, all those guys, pretty much anybody I've ever played with, are doing other projects, and they've been doing other projects even while the Doughboys were together. Because for the last 4 or 5 years, I was on the road with the Yardbirds and still performing with the Doughboys when I wasn't on the road with the Yardbirds. So we were doing a lot. And then Gar Francis, the guitar player, who joined after Willie passed away, has a lot of different things that he does. He's very involved, writes songs constantly. And so he's got this other band called the New Bordeaux. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I haven't, no.
Yeah, but they're worth looking into.
All right,
yeah.
I'll check them out. I find it really interesting that you kind of have to spread yourself thin in terms of who you play with, the projects that you take on, and also, I mean, you play so many instruments. It's not that you ever had one instrument that you concentrated on, whether it was pure vocals or pure drums. You spread yourself around a whole bunch of instruments too.
Well, it's like I said, it's a lot of fun. Music, it's just so much fun to develop music. You know, even when you're doing cover songs. I don't know how familiar you are with the Doughboys music, but if you listen to our very last album, which was Running for Covers,
Yeah.
it was a whole album full of covers.
Which was your favorite on there?
It's really hard to say. Everybody else's favorite is the Neil Diamond song that we covered, which now I can't even remember the name.
It doesn't matter. I'll find it. But which did you like best?
I liked our cover of Play with Fire because it didn't sound anything like the Rolling Stones cover. And it was probably one of the few Rolling Stones songs that we covered. But we also covered our own 1967 releases on that album. We redid them because we had that record contract when we were in high school on Bell Records. And we had a song called Rhoda and a song called Everybody Knows My Name, which was written by Bob Gaudio and Bob Crew, who wrote everything for the Four Seasons. So it's a little bit different kind of song for us. But that actually is one of my favorite songs that I've ever done vocally because it was so different. It was just very much of a challenge for me.
Myke Scavone, at the age you are today, are you better or the same as you were?
Well, the real question is, are you bitter or better?
Are you better or better? You're better.
I think I'm better. I think, a fine wine only gets better with age, you know. And the funniest part about it is I think the older I get as I play, the more I enjoy it. And I don't know if it's because just all those years of experience really culminate every time I hit the stage. You know, it's like it just does something for your confidence, you know. And I've never been shy on stage. I've never felt I've never had what they call stage fright. I have no idea what that is. And that's an odd thing for a lot of people. I know most of the people I've ever played with are always, you know, if they don't
terrified
smoke
first,
or they don't have a drink or something before they go on stage, they can't do it.
Right.
And it's just something I enjoy doing so much that it becomes a very natural thing for me. So I think the longer I've done it, the better I've gotten because I just enjoy it that much more.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I better let you go. You've been so generous with your time, but we sure hope to see you with the Yardbirds here and maybe with another reunion of the Doughboys. You could come and see us on this side of the world. You've never been here, have you?
No, I have not. And it is on my bucket list. And my wife actually has relatives over there.
Ah, good. Okay.
So
that'd be awesome.
But I really appreciate you having me on. I thank you for your time.
No need to do that. We thank you for the music and so glad that you've enjoyed it all these years and provided so many of us with so much enjoyment. We're really grateful.
Well, I thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Myke. Enjoy Austin, enjoy the family, and thanks a million for sharing your time and stories with us.
Okay, Sandy. Thank you.
Bye now. All the best. Bye.
Bless you.